Welcome to Sweeping the Country one more time, and I hope you never quit. I'm Derek Walker, your host. My co-host, Mr. Jimmy Carter, he never quits. He's like the Energizer Bunny. Hey, Jimmy, what's going on?
You know, we'll have to hit a couple of points involving the Israeli Hamas and all that stuff, because we could just drown in the sewer of that if we wanted to, but not. A couple of little sidebar stories that are interesting. Okay. Taylor Swift has a security detail, and she needs one. I know 100%. That for a fact from her father. Yeah. She's had stalkers show up at her house, in her house. She's got people that want to kidnap her. She's had death threats. A lot of this stuff, very real, particularly the stalkers. Mm-hmm. They've all gone before courts, and, it's just, she needs that. So when you've got a lot of money, you get presidential-like security if you need it. Somebody like her, who's more famous in the United States right now than Taylor Swift?
I can't think of anybody. Maybe Trump, just because he's always in the news. But
maybe Trump, Joe Biden. There's a handful of them.
Yeah, not many.
And they all get presidential security. Yeah. And Taylor does too. And if you're really rich, of course, the government pays for those guys to have security. But if you're not a government employee or something, you get Israeli soldiers to do it.
That's fascinating to me. And I saw this article, but before you get into it, because I know this is a great story about what's going on with the security guy, but I wonder, and maybe we know people in the industry. We've been on Zoom calls together with people that protect and stuff. How much does she pay for something like that? Would you guess?
A lot.
I mean, is it?
Well, you have in her case, it's not willy nilly. You hire a company.
Gotcha. Okay,
and,
so
and a company provides whatever it is they think you need to be able to be secure. Yeah. I mean, in her case, she's got rolling security. The fact that they're traveling with her
24/7,
all that stuff is, the day rate on that kind of stuff is high.
Do they watch her at night too? I mean, is she 24/7?
There's different people that do that. Yeah, I mean, they've got, like in her place in New York, I think she has multiple floors that she owns in this building that has a garage, in it. So your car's protected internally in a place that's hard to do in New York, indoor parking. But she has it in Manhattan. And I think there's a floor that when she's there, it's occupied by security. And so you have electronic security with cameras and other things. And in the case, though, of some of these stalkers, they somehow get around all this.
I don't know how they do that either. So
I don't either, but anyway, you have electronic security, and then you have people that travel with you security. That's a team that works together. There's a body man, and this guy who we don't know the name of, who's already gone back. He was an Israeli Defense Force, IDF soldier, who had retired, who'd done his service and was working over in the United States as a security person for her, and went back to Israel to be in the IDF, and said that, don't be on the wrong side of history. He said, I have a great life in the United States, but I couldn't be here and see people getting slaughtered at home. I had to go back. And he did. So this guy is one of and also they're not armed in many cases on some of these things, because you run into different laws. Now, obviously a Secret Service person can be armed everywhere because you're a federal officer.
Yeah, sure.
But even if you're a state officer, like I know somebody that was one of the top people in Nashville security, entertainer, and he got some special permits for sometimes having guns around, but it got tricky, because he had to. It's just difficult. So you got to be a formidable person that feels like they can take on. You don't need a gun. Yeah. If it's that close, you can just disarm that person. Yeah. And he looked like, and you see some of these shots of that security guy for Taylor, I have no doubt that he can handle whatever was coming for him.
Well, and I hear too, obviously in light of what's going on in the Middle East, you hear about how the Israeli army is so well trained. I believe it. They're elite, right? They're elite forces. So this guy's got to be top notch.
He was, all of them are trained. Yeah. And he was, and my friend was too, in the fact that he was a regular policeman. I'm not trying to give out his identity, so I'm being careful what I'm saying, what job he had. But he was with a police department and was one of the, special investigators in those police departments. And those guys they lift weights, and they're in shape people. Yeah. But then they know about, like the Green Berets and people, they know hand-to-hand close order combat.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And they can do that. So that's what this guy did. So
he left her, huh? So so they just probably assigned another security.
They have another
detail.
one. There's a bunch of people that want. You just got to really check those kind of people out because your insurance on that. If Taylor, I'm sure, has got insurance on the security people. If they hurt somebody and they get sued or whatever, or they kill somebody or break their neck. I mean, you don't mess with those people. If you lunge toward her, I don't know what they would do to you. I mean, they do whatever it took to subdue you. But if they hurt you in the process, I'm sure that would be sticky.
Yeah, which may be why she uses a company instead of just hiring individuals.
Right.
That.
So so it gets tricky. Paul McCartney, he takes the train sometimes in England. He's by himself.
Really?
He'll go out there and just get out there and ride the tube to wherever he's going. But if he's on tour where he's being Paul McCartney and people know that's Paul McCartney, then he's got security. Just like she does.
As much as
out there, multiple security people, and they have security meetings, like at a concert.
Oh yeah.
And that's why they in fact, before they were doing it everywhere, if you went to a McCartney concert post John Lennon's death, you had to go through a metal detector.
Jeez.
And then I've been in these rooms where they have all these pictures on the wall. And these are all people who have made threats.
Oh my gosh. I had no idea.
On a watch list.
I had no idea.
So you have local cops that are working, at all these amphitheaters and everything else. There's always security. Even some of it's half-ass security where they're just trying to keep you not to stand in your seat.
Yeah, they got the T-shirt on.
But it's different levels of security. But they all have a security meeting in the afternoon saying what we know, what is the artist going to do? Is he going to walk in the crowd? Is he going to do this? Does he mind if someone touches the stage? All the little rules about where he's coming in, where he's going out, how's he going to get out, and all that stuff. And obviously, like the other night, Craig Morgan was on stage at the Texas State Fair when there was gunfire.
Oh, geez.
And 3 people got shot in the food court. And so he jumped off the stage because he's a former Army Ranger and still in the Army Reserve. And he went out there and got his wife out of the audience and got her backstage where she would be safe and secure, because that's who he is.
You made me think just now when you were talking about that. I remember being in Disneyland. I was probably teens maybe, and I was watching a show. It was an outdoor amphitheater style show. And all of a sudden, this dude collapsed on the front row of the seats. He fell. He had a heart attack or something. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And this guy was standing to the side of the stage, and he had a Hawaiian shirt on, and I thought he was just there enjoying Disneyland. And he pulls up a paper bag, Disneyland logo, and he talks into the bag. He just says something into the bag. And out of nowhere comes an entire EMT crew, like from side stage. They put the person in a stretcher. They wheeled him through this door on the side that I didn't even know was there, and before you know it, they were gone. They were gone, but they're watching everything. They're watching, everything. It's just fascinating. All the stuff we don't know. I never knew, like at a concert, they would have a room with all the faces, like, people who bounce bad checks.
They have a security meeting depending on. I know for McCartney, they had a lot of faces up there. People they were looking for. I saw it years ago when I was at the governor's mansion. When I was a kid, I used to go to the governor's mansion because the governor's son we were friends.
Yeah.
I'd go home with him after school, and in the guard tower, like for people driving into the place.
Yeah.
There were pictures up there of people that were really high, on the death threat rule, looking who this person has made threats and they're active or whatever, so
you're pretty you're pretty prominent, Jimmy. You've been on TV for a long time. You ever deal with any of that?
I never really did. No. If I did, I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
The women seem to have the most trouble, really.
Yeah. Okay.
They seem to have the most trouble. There's so many sickos out there. I haven't known. I know my friend when I worked for Barbara Mandrell. She had somebody with a gun that was out in her front yard, in the car, and she called her dad, who was a retired cop, and he was packing, and he got up with that guy. So
wow.
Dave, I don't know of a woman in show business that I knew anything about that hasn't had an issue of a stalker or something.
Yeah.
Then obviously politicians, but I guess I was making people happy more than making them mad. I hope so. Anyway, and so if I did, I didn't know about it. Put it that way.
Yeah.
and that's fine with me.
Yeah.
People like Oprah, they get a lot of sometimes they don't act, they don't act on it. And politically these days, we've got so many people that are, out there. We've watched the shenanigans that go on in Washington and with the Congress people. And, Britney Spears, that's another one. I don't know. She doesn't appear to have security.
Not right now.
She's driving on her own and all that kind of stuff.
That's another angle since you brought it up, being on your own. I mean, you talked about McCartney going and riding the train, which is, I think for him, he probably just wants to be a normal guy and not have to deal with all that.
They all do.
Yeah.
And that's why they go to Toys R Us when they used to be a Toys R Us.
Yeah.
I would know I know that several artists that I know of that were very famous would go at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor used to go to the Target on White Bridge Road near the TV station whenever her new album would come out.
Yeah.
She'd go there around midnight and buy the album. That was a tradition for her for a long time. And she liked to go shopping at it was a grocery store. I can see it, but it was near Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
That she would go into, and people would run into her at 3 a.m, 2 a.m, something like that.
But I get it.
Because they can get out there. They can handle it if it's one or two people or something.
Right, but not a mass.
And then people don't expect to see them.
Right.
But, it's just sometimes you have I mean, in New York City is the best place for that. I mean, there's been more times than not. I've been on a busy day on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
Not too far from the Plaza Hotel or somewhere around Times Square when I had to double take, but you recognize somebody. I remember seeing Barney Miller guy. What was his name?
Hal,
whatever.
Holgren?
Yeah,
no.
whatever. Yeah, it's Hal something.
Linden? Linden, yeah, that's it. Hal Linden.
Hal Linden.
Yeah.
I remember seeing him.
Yeah.
He was wearing a winter coat and all that stuff, but it was him.
I walked by.
I saw Mike Wallace walk by the window once on Park Avenue, and people on airplanes, you're not used to seeing them in those environments, so you sometimes don't recognize them.
Well, and
they're hoping that's true.
I think in New York, there are so many celebrities running around. I walked right
people
past.
Leave them alone. There's certain places where people leave them alone.
Yeah,
in New York City, that's why Johnny Cash wanted. He lived there for a time.
There you go.
And I would see him on the plane. They'd live there on 57th, on West 57th, and in Central Park South, they had a condo, and people in Lennon, and that was Lennon's idea, but he was wrong.
Yeah,
that people would leave him alone because he was fairly predictable of where he was, and they knew where he was.
Yeah,
and he would go in and out, and he did have a doorman there, but he didn't use him.
Wow.
That's when he got killed. The doorman, the car was let off not too far from where there was a doorman type thing.
Wow.
But you just don't know when these nuts are going to come out and do something.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's just awful. The John,
well, doggone it. Thing. I'm glad I'm not famous because I wouldn't want to deal with that.
No, and I've always said that it's a great conversation to have with people who are saying, "Don't you wish that fame came with an on and off switch?"
God, yes. And
Michael Jackson was one of those. He was so famous he couldn't do anything, so he would go into the costume deal.
Oh yeah,
he'd wear a hat and he'd do this and try to cover himself. Change his appearance and people have done that. Added a mustache, doing all kinds of different things. But and the women, most of them that really are out there, some just do. I remember seeing Jacqueline Smith come out of a department store in Beverly Hills.
Yeah,
and she was just Jacqueline Smith. She couldn't hide that beauty.
Yeah, she was gorgeous. Yeah,
just couldn't hide it. Dolly. Now I know Dolly
can't hide it.
It's not Dolly all the time. She can.
Can't
Dolly
she?
Dolly is a character. That's a wig. That's a lot of makeup. That's high heels.
So are you telling me that
when she gets in blue jeans and some kind of sweatshirt, and puts on a ball cap and another kind of hair she wears or wears her own natural hair, she does go out in the world.
She could come out of the house across the street from me, and I might not recognize her.
No, you probably wouldn't. I know her daughter. Look up. I'll tell you what she looks like.
Okay.
You can look it up. Go look up Stella Parton.
Okay, that's
Stella Parton. And that should be in images of Google. Everybody doing that now if you can get to your computer.
I'm doing it right now.
That's what Dolly looks like without her makeup on.
Jimmy, this is
not with a
Stella Parton. This is gold right here. I gotta spell it right.
Stella Parton, Parton.
Yeah, I would not. Nope, I would.
See, they're sisters. And you can see
God.
You can see what the basic is there though, and a lot of those sisters do look alike.
Yeah, I got to show my wife this. She's going to be. She looks
but
a little like
she puts on a lot of makeup, and a lot of hair and all that stuff. You start breaking that down.
I'll be darned. That is just craziest thing. But I get it. I get it because I've seen. Well, I don't want to get into who I've dated, but I have dated people that I see them one way, and then I see them the other way. I don't even recognize them.
They say that Burt Reynolds never saw Lonnie Anderson without her makeup on.
I believe that. Probably Lonnie's choice,
that was totally a creation. She was totally a creation, like Dolly.
Yeah, and it was probably Lonnie who made that the way it was, right? I mean, she probably is the one.
That's one of the reasons why I never wanted a wig.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pressure for men in the 70s, particularly if you were on television, and in the 80s too, to wear a wig because it made you look younger. There was a real discrimination against bald people. It made you look like you were 1,000 years old.
Why were you such a holdout? What made you?
I didn't want to do it. For that reason. I couldn't imagine dating some woman with my hair.
Oh, and it comes off
on, and then you're buying like this product, and then you get it home and you take your hair off.
Right.
You don't. That's no. I never wanted to do that. So that's just one of the things. It's like wearing a sock in your pants, which I just can't imagine people doing that either.
Well,
but it's the same thing to me.
I'm going to adjust my sock here. But no, it's now people shave their head that don't even have to. It's kind of a sexy thing,
But in my case, it was just there. So,
okay.
But there are people that try all kinds of different things to disguise themselves or make them look different.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the security thing. Some people just can't hide because Oprah's kind of Oprah all the time.
Yeah.
And she looks like Oprah. Now, she looks different when she takes her makeup off, but she's still pretty much Oprah.
I think it's easier for a woman to hide it than a guy because we don't wear makeup.
Sometimes.
I mean, well, not all guys.
But the makeup part makes a lot of difference on some people.
It does. I'm telling you, for a long time, I wondered if I'd ever recognize Alan Jackson if he took his hat off. Because I have no idea what his hair looks like. I really don't. I mean, it's long.
Just blonde or now, I don't know. But I
don't either. But
he wasn't much to it.
He never took it off. George Strait always had his hat on. Always had. I mean, I rarely see him without the hat. I guess I'd recognize his smile.
George Strait. I'm thinking George Jones.
Yeah.
George Strait, yes. I mean, I've seen him without it when he nods his head. Same way with Brad,
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
A lot of them have started to take that hat off some of the time.
Mm-hmm. It's easier to recognize them that way for sure.
So they can not be so hooked. It's great. Like I've started this on television now.
Okay.
I wear black glasses, not these. I wear these.
You got some sporty looking or fashion looking glasses.
No, I don't know why I did it. I need them.
I like those.
So that's what I'm wearing on TV now.
Yeah.
It looks better than me just being without glasses. And so it's kind of your brand.
Your persona. Now
that's what the guy looks like. He's bald with black glasses.
Yeah.
But some people, what they do is they have a cigar. Remember George Burns was famous. He always had that cigar with him, and that was his brand.
Yeah.
And some people have an expression. Some people fold their arms up like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Jack Benny, that did that. A lot of them have. Some people had a cigarette. They all have different stuff.
Right now I'm thinking of a guy. Jim Cramer, who does the bull market report. He rolls his sleeves up. Yeah. He's also a bald guy, but he rolls his sleeves up like he's working so hard.
Whatever his name is, Steve Wecke or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Does that too. Yeah. I mean, and Jim Jordan tries to do some of that. One of the congressmen, he's got that look where he never wears a sport coat.
Yeah.
He seems to always have that shirt off like he's a prosecutor. He's really
right.
Working.
He's getting into it. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting what people do.
Yeah.
To give you, to try to be something different,
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of people out there number one, there's a lot of people out there mixed up. I've really been disturbed at how much anti-Semitism there is. I never knew that there were that many people that hated Jews.
I'm with you on that.
I knew about it in the Middle East, but I didn't know in this country that we had a decent percentage of people who are anti-Israel, anti-Semitic.
I don't understand it either.
Shocking to me.
Yeah, me too. I try to watch that with a little bit of a grain of salt, or listen to it, with a grain of salt. I mean, my whole take on, I've never even thought about that as far as a racism problem.
Racism toward the Jews. I mean, obviously Nazis had it.
Of course, yeah.
Obviously the Muslims, ISIS and those people,
yeah,
they've been anti-Jewish over there for a long time, and this is these kids they're raised over there generationally.
Oh, sure, it's in their blood.
Hate Jews, and these are bad people, and these are and that's why this is never going to end, and I mean never, because Jews are not going to leave anywhere, and these people aren't going to leave, so it's just going to be a standoff.
I mean, they would have to. I mean, it's interesting because everybody's got a different take and a different side and all that. But it's interesting to me to see people say, well, the people, the Hamas has to be exterminated. Hezbollah, Israelis or Jewish people have to be exterminated. We have to kill them all, or whatever the case may be. There's no way you're going to find them all. There's no way you're going to pinpoint.
Well, see, here's where the worm is turning as we do this show.
Yeah.
On what is it, October the 17th?
Yeah.
The worm is already turning. We're over a week since the horrible, horrible things have happened over there.
That's right.
And so now an Israeli airstrike has hit a Gaza hospital and killed hundreds of people.
You knew that was coming.
Well, that was inevitable. Yeah, it was inevitable.
Yeah.
I'm sure they didn't want to, but they did.
No, but you knew it was going to happen.
Unlike the Hamas, who did it on purpose.
That's true. That is true.
But all right, so they did that. And so now the Palestinian Authority has canceled a meeting with Biden after the hospital strike. You're just not going to, you're going to go forever trying to appease people. And for those that have been over there, I've had people tell me that no one should have an opinion unless they've been there and they've seen what goes on in the West Bank and seen what goes on in Gaza and see what's going on in Israel. And maybe that's true.
It seems fair enough to say that. I mean, I've been told how to raise kids from people that don't have kids, and I think this is ludicrous. Have a couple kids and call me tomorrow.
I know that these people go back to times before Jesus.
Yeah, sure.
There were Bedouins that roamed around in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
And these people are a little more sophisticated than that, but they still have been, barely have a home, and they have surrounded themselves or let themselves be surrounded, by people who are terrorists. That maybe they didn't have a choice. They don't have any action in the game, so what are they going to do? They can't fight, so they just got to deal with what's ever around. And they are victims of this, but the problem is you live where people that are very bad, that have done things that have done a crime against mankind.
Yeah,
killing babies and old women and raping and doing it. That's a crime against mankind.
Yeah,
and so that
I agree.
In return gets bad things that happen to you when you those kind of people are like rabid animals. When you go and do that, you deserve what happens to somebody when they're sick like that. They get extinguished.
Yeah.
And that's what the Hamas people it's going to happen to them. And it's going to keep happening until they're gone. Israel will go to the last man to get rid of these people in retaliation for what they did. And I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But I know that you just keep on fighting. And it is never going to end.
It's never going to end, Jimmy.
And these kids like Harvard and these Cornell University
what are they doing
teachers
there?
And all this stuff.
What is that?
What is that? That's just, they're just, I don't know. I mean, they think that Israel is holding Palestine down and holding the people that live in Gaza, not treating them right. I don't, what is the responsibility then? Why don't you give that responsibility to Egypt or some of these other countries that could be doing nice things for these people?
Right.
And why just Israel? Why them? Cause they'll say that Israel took over their land. That is their land that was given to them by the United Nations. I mean, it is so because people did things that were against mankind. And so mankind through the United Nations felt like these people deserved a homeland. So they gave them one, where Jesus and where a lot of the artifacts are from the basics of Old Testament, Moses and all that. It covers a lot of ground. And it's just such, but we're not teaching. This is my biggest problem, is that in this country, they're teaching hate in a lot of the educational facilities in some of these countries, but we're not teaching hate or niceness. We're just teaching math and science and some of these other things. That's good. But the fact that we're not teaching history, that even with just my off the cuff little knowledge of what's going on, they should be knowing about this stuff. They should be learning about the conflicts in the world. They should be learning about what the Nazis did. They should have learned about World War II and World War One and the Korean War and Vietnam and all that stuff. At least the last 200 years of history, from Civil War forward. The Revolutionary War gets back there real far, and that's a whole different deal to people. But it's still, if you really get into the weeds on that, it's about a company, it's about a bunch of people that were getting away from religious strictness. They didn't want to have religion running their lives. That's why they came over, for religious freedom.
You're
to have
right.
freedom to be able to do things. But when do we teach that anymore? We don't. And I think that's really wrong that we don't teach that in school, and certainly teach it at the college level and require it.
Yeah.
If nothing else, that level.
Yeah, and speaking of teaching, I mean, you go back to the Hamas and the Hezbollah and all these people and these terrorist organizations, as we're calling them, those people have been taught since birth, right? They've been taught in every class, in every school, this is the way, and it's the only way. And so that's what Israel's dealing with. And now, what do? You can't do like atrocities to Hamas. You would have to find a concert with only Hamas people going to it and gun everybody down, right? That's the only way you could have.
And it's just it's like they've gone back out and reintroduced themselves with human shields in society. So unless you're going to kill yourself going into these rabbit holes where they are, you got to wait till they come out.
Did you see? I don't know.
And that's just one place in the world, though. Remember, that if you go back in time and study history for 10 minutes, and you'll see when America was at war in World War II, how we survived as a country. It is amazing.
I agree,
because we had a front over in Europe going on, North Africa and Europe, and we had the Far East, over there with Philippines and all the Pacific Islands and all that. All that was going on at the same time with poor communication and everything else. And how we kept up with that. I mean, the whole country was on it, building things and doing all that. But the fact that we don't study that in some way, or these kids do it peripherally, or they're taught wrong. They're taught with some slant, like some of these idiot teachers are doing at Cornell and a few of these other people. That's just a mess. I mean,
I don't disagree.
It's very, very disgusting.
I don't disagree, and I also think about history. You were talking about history in World War I, and you think back to World War I, or you're talking about World War II, but World War I and World War II, and you look at how we've aligned ourselves as a country with different countries. We've had different allies over the years, and we've done that for everybody likes to say for the greater good, but whatever the common cause was, we would align ourselves with these people to make this, come out smelling like a rose, hopefully. And in this case, I don't know if there's an end. Like you said earlier, I don't know if there's an end to this ever. So how deep we get involved? We put carriers.
Well, that's it. And that's what we decided, remember when we went over to rescue Kuwait, in the Gulf War and then the Gulf War II. And then we found in Afghanistan, nobody can help that. It took the Russians down. It took us down.
Forever war.
And, that's just a waste of humanity over there, because it's so screwed up that it can't be unscrewed.
No, I think you're right.
That's a little bit about what goes on there in Gaza. There may be so many tunnels and so many bad things going on there. It would be, your initial reaction would be to go and do it. Let's go get them. But then you think about it for more than 10 minutes. I'll say,
how are they going to do that? How are we
going to do this? Because we're going to lose a lot of people. These may be booby-trapped tunnels. And so we get all under there and they blow it up because they don't care.
They don't care. They don't care.
So you can't fight someone who's – it's like we found that out in World War II. Another thing. The hardest thing we had to fool with in World War II were kamikazes.
Yeah, because we didn't –
somebody who's willing to give their life up to fly their plane – which they did into the World Trade Center as well. Those are one of the hardest things to deal with, because we value human life. Our morals require us to value human life, or at least that's what we say.
It's interesting because you brought up that valuing human life, and I watched a show not too long ago on, I think it was YouTube, where they were talking about artificial intelligence, and they had an artificial intelligence pilot going against a regular pilot.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking Top Gun pilot, right? Top of the top. And he was flying against the AI, and he came out of it, and he had 3 dogfights. And one of them, he said, gotcha. You could see him in the cockpit say, gotcha, to the computer. and all of a sudden the computer did something totally off book, and he said, I can't beat it. And they asked him, why do you think the computer took you out 3 times, or artificial intelligence? And he said, because it has no fear of death.
Right.
And that was it.
No fear of death. It has no honor. It has no shame.
Nothing.
It has no
empathy,
thrill of
sympathy,
victory,
whatever.
of defeat.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
100%. Just wild stuff. And I know there's been a lot of talk in the news about all this stuff, and but we got to touch on it. We got to touch on it.
You can't. Also, I would warn people, and I did it at lunch the other day, and I wish I had.
Yeah.
I watched a news show at lunch because I wanted to kind of catch up. I hadn't been watching much in a couple of days.
Yeah.
And boy, I was Debbie Downer when that was over with. I kind of I said, this is terrible. This is terrible.
Yeah.
You know, and you can only take so much of that. You can't go live on these news networks when this stuff is going on.
I agree. It can change your entire mood, which is why I want to bring this up before we go. Yeah. I watched a movie, Jamie Foxx. Now, I don't know when he had his stroke or any of that medical stuff that was going on, if it was before the movie or after the movie.
I think it was before that movie was made a little while ago, not long ago.
Yeah, it's an Amazon movie. It's called Burial.
Yeah.
And it's based on a true story about an attorney who's a personal injury attorney who takes on this huge case. It's Jamie Foxx. It's Tommy Lee Jones. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes or something like that.
And where's it at?
It's on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
It
now,
is
on Amazon Prime as well is the new Bosch.
Oh, I love that. It starts
Friday.
Oh, good. Okay.
It starts Friday. It's the Bosch Legacy Season 2.
Yeah, love that show.
And if you remember in Season 1 Legacy, at the end of it, his daughter is kidnapped.
Yeah, so this is from that
that's
point
where this starts. And it'll probably be 10 episodes.
Excellent.
So that's really good. I'm looking forward to that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm working my way through the morning show.
Yeah, how's
I'm
that?
working my way through Ted Lasso. Both of them are just okay.
Yeah, Ted Lasso's a feel-good. I mean, it's a feel-good show.
It's just it's light, and I really like him.
Yeah.
I can see what people liked about it. And, I mean, I really, initially, because I don't care about soccer, but it doesn't matter. You don't have to like soccer.
I was telling somebody the other day, because I had watched it a long time ago, and you're new to it, and he is new to it too. And we were in the studio, and he said, yeah, I started watching this Ted Lasso and stuff. Hey, everything I learned about soccer is from Ted Lasso.
Yeah,
I knew nothing about soccer. Now I know. So whatever.
But Ted Lasso is good, and I hope it continues.
Yeah, me too.
The Hijack movie is on Apple Plus.
Great.
It's really good. It's
Idris
7
Elba.
episodes.
Yeah.
With 7 hours. That's intense, man. It's really intense.
It's a great one. Yeah, you're holding your breath.
One.
What's going to happen next? That's good.
What else was out there that I'm working? Well, Lioness is on Paramount Plus.
Oh yeah,
that's very good. Who
is the star in Lioness? Is that
Nicole Kidman's in that?
That's what I thought. Okay, yeah,
she's a CIA person.
Yeah. What is that on?
I can see her.
Lioness.
Paramount Plus.
That's why I don't get it. I got to break down. I still haven't gotten it yet.
I mean, these things you have to kind of, Paramount Plus. So you watch and see all the good. Like right now, I haven't been on it in a couple of, I probably haven't been on it in a month or two.
Yeah.
Although I did watch a football game on it. But if you have discipline, you keep them on the chart, you cancel them when you're not using them.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's the only way to do it.
I haven't felt like it hurt me that bad. That's not expensive.
Oh, by the way, I'll tell this.
Prime is.
Yeah, Prime is. It just went up. But I'll tell you this. If you have an American Express, and I don't know which card you have to have, whether it's Platinum, Gold, or whatever, they'll pay for up to $20 of subscription services. They will credit your account on a annual basis. So you can subscribe to Apple. You can subscribe to these different services. You tell them which ones you subscribe to. They send you a credit.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, if you got that, check it out for sure. And, of course, we know there's a lot of bad going on in the world, but we encourage you to tune in to our podcast every single week. Jimmy and I try to keep it light from time to time, but also bring you up to date on the news. And until next time on Sweeping the Country, I'm Derek Walker.
I'm Jimmy Carter.
Good day.